really started some time ago as an attempt to get, initially, to just get architects together to speak about their professional condition with each other. And this went on for a little while, and it proved to be an somewhat erratic and eccentric program. And then at some point people said that, we must have a slightly more organized thing. In any case, architects talking to architects becomes very boring. And so we thought that, it's really what we're talking about is the conditions within which architects practice, which means we're talking about society in general. So, and the IHC was kind enough to, do we have to have these lights? Surely not. This has never happened before, these lights. Anyway, when the Dalai Lama speaks, he has this special cap with a hood. I mean, it's a sort of band which he puts around with a kind of hood like that. So he, because always there are big lights, So it's very nice. I'll have to ask him to give me one. So IHC was kind enough to designate this series as a cultural event, which made it possible for them to sponsor it without any charge. So that's 2 years today that we've been doing this all on a monthly basis. Now our speaker, I'm very pleased to welcome today, Anisha Shekhar Mukherji, who is an architect by training and has specialized in conservation architecture, and is teaching at the SPA for many years in the industrial design department as well as the architecture department.
Well, good evening, and thank you very much, Professor Ganju and the India Habitat Center for inviting me to be part of this series on architecture and society. And I'd like to thank all of you who've braved the traffic and the weather to be here today. I need the lights because I'm going to be I'm going to be speaking from a script, and then hopefully we'll have a discussion after that. And I'll try not to meander on for too long. So my talk, as the title suggests, seeks to recognize the Lakshanas of Indian design. But before I try to do that, I need to clarify what I imply when I say Indian and design. Both words are open to diverse interpretation, and why I speak of Lakshan. We'll start with some pictures. These are all drawings of buildings, rather beautiful drawings. The question I have for all of you is, which of these seem Indian to you? All? Any in particular that doesn't? Well, speaking for myself, I recognize some of these as Indian because they're either famous buildings or famous types of buildings, such as temples or palaces. Another reason which makes them typically Indian, perhaps, is the people and the landscape around. But the question I ask myself is that if I didn't know these buildings, would I be able to point out anything else that makes them Indian? Apart from the fact that they're located in the present political boundaries of India. Now, these drawings are by a gentleman called David Gentleman. They feature in a book entitled David Gentleman's India. They offer an outsider's view of what constitutes India, and obviously it's also a very personal view. In his introduction, David Gentleman writes that the challenge for him was to, and I quote, identify the many features that are found nowhere else, things that, wherever you are, give the unmistakable character and flavor of Indian life, the clear and vivid certainty of being in India. End of quote. It's interesting that gentleman chooses to sketch very few modern buildings in his book to convey this character. Also, if you remove the people and the landscape from the scene of these buildings, there is no vivid and clear certainty that you are in India. In the case of the drawings of historic architecture, they're certainly more individual and more beautiful, but the same question arises. Is there anything they share which makes them recognizably Indian? So this is what I'll try to examine today to the extent possible in the time that we have. We started with an outsider's view, and it's important in showing us how Indian architecture and India are perceived by people from non-Indian cultures. However, ultimately, this is an outsider's view, however empathetic the outsider might be. To get a more balanced and a better understanding of what India and Indian design mean, it's important to reverse the gaze, as it were, and see these from the inside, from the Indian perspective. So what is the Indian perspective? Is there anything different about such a perspective that results in uniquely Indian design? In today's time, of course, there seems to be little perceptible difference between the non-Indian and the conventional and influential Indian.